Negan versus the Croat, Negan versus the Marshall. I like that matchup because, baby, the Croat, yeah, definitely a worthy adversary. And he takes off his helmet. He's like, don't worry, you're safe now. And I just get the feeling that the Marshall can't be more unsafe. Like the whole you're safe. No, sir. I don't think he is. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be recapping the new Walking Dead spin-off series, Dead City. Now, I used to be so obsessed with The Walking Dead. I was on the train from the beginning. However, I did stop watching the series when Glenn was killed. Spoiler alert, sorry if you haven't seen the original series. And a few years ago, I jumped in and saw, I Googled the highest rated episodes from, the seasons that I had missed. And honestly, I can barely remember. I think I saw 3 episodes. One, Michonne was fighting some kids. And another one, it was some theatrical black guy. I don't know. I can barely remember. But this new series, and it's a few other spin-offs that I haven't seen. When it comes to Fear the Walking Dead, I just didn't care. And I did see one episode. It was the top rated episode of the series, and that was it. I saw that one. And I didn't really care about this spin-off either. But somebody did ask me to review this, and the preview actually looked pretty good. So I was like, okay, let me check out this series. Now, this Dead City spinoff follows Maggie and Negan. Very unlikely pairing. I don't know why they did this. Now, I'm not familiar with the comics in any shape, way, or form, so I'm not sure if this is a narrative that happened in the comics or if the showrunners just wanted to put these two characters together. Now, I may not have been watching The Walking Dead, but I see, people talk about it on Twitter and stuff, and people seem to be crazy about Negan. Baby, I ain't one of the people. I hated the introduction of Negan and the death of Glenn so much that I stopped watching a show that I was very loyal to. So just off rip, I went into the series not very excited to see Maggie, paired up with Negan. But I gotta say, they convinced me. They got me. 100%. I'm on board. Now, this Dead City spinoff, it pretty much initially follows Maggie, whose son Herschel, and if you're not familiar, Herschel was her dad's name, so she's named her son after Herschel, after her dad. He has been kidnapped by the Croat, and at first, I might be an idiot, but when they was calling him the Croat, I was thinking that was some type of evil name, but no, it's because he Croatian. I think that's where that come from. It doesn't mean monster. I thought it meant something, but no, it's just because he's Croatian. But he raided the little town that Maggie is in. They raided the town one time and stole some grain and stuff. Then they came back and took her son as collateral. Now, they do give you a little flashback in the series regarding the death of Glenn. Y'all, I couldn't look. That pissed me off so bad. For a character like Glenn, a character who, when it comes down to it, be motherfucking fighting for his life so bad, to have him die in a way where he had no chance, I would rather, if Glenn gonna die, let him die fighting, let him go out fighting. But we ain't even finna rehash all that. We ain't even finna relive all that. But right at the top of the episode, we see Maggie scoping out a city from across the water. It is the city of Manhattan. That's where the Croat is. That's where her son is being held. And baby, we see I want to say hundreds, but maybe just 100, but it felt like hundreds of walkers that she saw across the way. And speaking of saying walkers, Maggie says groaners, and I'm like, when the hell did Maggie start saying that? Where did that come from? Like, yeah, I know when they would meet, like other groups, people would have different names for them, but Maggie, y'all used to call them walkers. Obviously, though, I have missed a heck of a lot. For starters, we have something called New Babylon. And these New Babylon laws and New Babylon, like, I know they're not called sheriffs. What are they called? Marshals. And I was sitting here like, hold on now, baby, what is all this? Like, maybe a lot done changed since I stopped watching The Walking Dead. So Maggie is scoping out this city, and right off the top of the episode, she gets attacked by a walker, and they have this brutal kill of her, like, smashing the walker's head in. And Maggie ends up driving up to this bar, and I was so confused, like, hold on, baby, when the hell did we get bars and hotels in The Walking Dead? Child, times done changed. So Maggie is at the bar, and she's trying to get information. She spins this tale about having a cabin and getting overrun and needing somebody to help her. And all the while, she's just looking for Negan. And we get the lady from SVU, which I was surprised she played such a small role. I was like, that's it? Now, she can pretty much sniff out and tell that something is up with Maggie's character. And Maggie ends up sniffing around, snooping into this hotel room. And that's when the lady from SVU and her little two goons scoop Maggie up. And Maggie kind of was just sitting there like, she wasn't worried at all. She got 2 men and a woman. This is 3 people she would have to fight. The men are holding her down, and she literally looked like she just laying there chilling. I was like, okay, I guess Maggie got something up her sleeves. I was thinking maybe she's not completely, I don't know what I was thinking, but she ain't look worried. Now, the lady from SVU pulls a knife, and she starts saying like this, such and such Sinju, who I'm going to presume is just an insignificant person. This is some type of beef that has absolutely nothing to do with where we go in the show. It's just this moment. And Maggie ends up having like a knife in her boot, and I freaking love that. And she's able to, get the knife, fight her way out of this situation. She pretty much just has to fight the 2 guys because the lady ends up accidentally stabbing her own self in the hand with the knife that she was about to use to like cut Maggie's nose for like snooping and being nosy. And Maggie ends up seeing Negan and is trying to chase him out the bar, but she gets tripped by this little girl named Jenny. Jenny. And Maggie is able to get in her car and stop Negan and Jenny from running. And they get into a little tussle that ends quickly with Maggie having a knife to Negan's throat. And I'm not completely sold on why we needed Negan. Like I said, after seeing these first 2 episodes, I do like it very much. But you mean to tell me there was nobody else that I could ask for help outside of the man that brutally murdered the love of my life, the father of my child, in front of my face when he was unarmed? Like, it ain't nobody else I can ask for help. I'm not sure what's been happening on the show, but where's Daryl? Where's Carol? Where is Michonne? Where is any number of people you could have asked outside of Negan? And they try to spin it as Negan knows the Croat, and that's why Maggie came to him. But to me, that's not a good enough reason. Okay, so you knew him way back in the day, but what that got to do with the situation? Do you think that when Negan was in power, somebody he knew back in the day could have popped up and told him to leave you and your group alone and let Glenn go or anything along them lines? I don't think so. Like, I don't know. I don't see that being much of an advantage. Then specifically, because later on, And I can't remember if it was this episode or the second episode, but child, we just gonna recap it. You know what? Maybe I just recap both episodes in this one video, because I was gonna break it down into 2 different videos, but they put out, well, I don't know. Did they? I just saw 2. I don't know if they put out 2 at one time or if I'm just late jumping on. But we might just cover both episodes in this video. But we end up finding out later on that nigga not even on good terms with the Croat. So that made me sit there and be even more like, what the f you here for? Come to find out, the Croat was one of the saviors. He was one of the most psychotic, brutal, that even amongst Negan and his crew, Negan always felt like this guy was like the worst of the worst. And there came a situation where they found some young girl sleeping on the side of the road in the car. Negan felt like she didn't have nothing to do with nothing, told the Croat let her go. Croat did not agree. Come to find out, the girl was a scout, but the Croat killed her brutally, did something terrible to her. Negan went to kill the Croat, but missed the shot. So, baby, it's gonna be on sight. It's bad blood between y'all. That don't help me get my son. And I also feel like in a situation like this, baby, let you roll up in there, fight, kill, get your son. It don't matter. We just need a team of people with us. I'm just not buying that this is a good enough reason to team up with the man that murdered the love of my life. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. And then I'm jumping all around y'all. I'm not telling this in chronological order, but then they also give us the information when the Croat is with Herschel that Negan lived amongst Maggie people for years. What the hell? Y'all, are they kidding me? Child, when I say I done missed a lot, because I don't know how in the hell we went from that whole situation with the saviors and all of us being surrounded and Glenn and what was the other guy named that had got killed with that ugly ass mustache who I couldn't stand? Abraham. How we go from that to he was living amongst us for years? Why the hell, how the hell, who the hell, and why did Maggie not slit his throat in his sleep? I don't know. But anyway, let's see. So Maggie got Negan here and she's telling him the situation and he's pretty much like, why should I help you? And she goes into because you owe me. And Negan pretty much goes into the fact that this is not something he just doing for free. They make a deal, right? And one aspect, literally the only aspect of the series that I don't really care about right now, but maybe it's about to shift into something else. We end up taking Jenny to the new Hilltop, as they call it. And I'm not familiar with Hilltop, but obviously it's a kind of like Alexandria. It's a little community that's thriving and doing well because Negan wants Jenny to be safe. And Jenny goes to this town, and I felt like, all right, we could cut that little side story off right here. Jenny says she in the town, but no, they jump back to her in the town. She go to a school, this lady talked to her, and I was very uninterested, but it might end up turning into a storyline that I'm interested in because Jenny ends up running away, presumably to go find Negan, because Negan gives us a little backstory on her, and she actually was in a town where Negan was at, and her dad went and did come back. So Jenny went looking for her dad, who ended up, he was a walker and had been killed by humans, presumably. So needless to say, we can pretty much assume that Jenny is now going to look for Negan. And that could be an interesting story to see her traveling alone by herself, trying to get to Manhattan. Now, we also get introduced to these new Babylon Marshals, right? Which is a character that I actually enjoy and think I pretty much like all the characters here. There isn't any characters where I'm just like, I just really don't like. But we get introduced to 3 marshals, like the main marshal, his partner, and then we have a junior marshal, a little marshal in training, a rookie marshal. and they're tracking Negan because Negan is wanted, and apparently Negan killed one of the, like a marshal or somebody important, and Negan ends up telling Maggie that the story the marshals are spinning about what happened isn't actually the real deal. And I'm going to presume, because Maggie ends up asking Negan about his wife and daughter. I thought I had her name in my notes, but I don't. Annie, that's her name. It isn't here. So I don't know who Annie and Negan kid is. Obviously, that must be something that happened after I watched the show. But he pretty much kind of just disregards the question. He doesn't ask it. He just moves on and keeps talking. And then when he ends up saying that this story isn't what it seems, I'm going to presume that maybe he didn't just kill this marshal out of cold blood. Maybe something happened with his wife and child. And I'm going to presume that since he's caring for Jenny, not his wife and child, that they're dead. Or maybe they're not dead. Maybe they're just somewhere safe. And maybe he feels they're safer without him. So I'm not really sure on that story. Now, we end up having the marshals tracking Negan's whereabouts to that bar hotel area, right? And they go in, they're looking for Negan. The main marshal guy is telling the story about why he's wanted, and he even goes into telling the story about when he killed Glenn. And obviously he doesn't know who Maggie is. He sees her and has no clue who she is. So this is obviously just, a story that has been told. And now, he ends up telling them that Negan isn't just going to suffer the death penalty, but the way he's going to die, y'all, they're going to string him up, slice him in half from growing through. Look, I need them all to end. Negan help Maggie get her son. The marshals get Negan, and he get chopped the motherfucker heck in half. Go ahead, just do it. Because I need to see that. But this whole new Babylon world order, I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. Like I said, I like the marshal. I like his part in the story, where it could go as well. But I'm not a fan of this new Babylon thing. When Maggie was traveling, we ended up seeing 2 people hanging. They turned into walkers, of course. So the new Babylon world order is pretty much where we have these laws. And they aren't just laws to keep order or anything. They're laws where you can't drink alcohol. Why are we jumping back to prohibition? Why in the world, in zombie world, in post-apocalyptic world, why would alcohol be illegal? Seemingly alcohol, prostitution is illegal, drugs is, why? I could see making certain things illegal to keep some type of law and order so we ain't just living like the Wild West. But I'm not feeling these laws, and I don't see anybody carrying guns except the marshal. So I'm going to presume that is also illegal and we can't have no guns. And baby, with zombies, hell no, I need a gun. So I'm just not a fan of that. Now, when he's questioning the folks at the bar, he hones in on the SVU lady. I don't really know why he singled her out, presumably because she run this place maybe. But if we're not familiar with this place and we're just tracking Negan, I don't know how they know she run the place, but whatever. He singles her out. She goes to tell him she don't know Negan, she ain't seen him. And he doesn't believe her, pushes her outside. There's a gate where it's a ton of walkers outside the gate. And he's twisting her arm back, breaking her arm. And she ends up being okay, yeah, I know who you talking about. He was working here. He cleared out the zombies and stuff, the groaners. And that he left with some woman. And he ends up killing the lady anyway for aiding and abetting. He pushes her through the gate with the walkers. And I felt like that was so brutal and savage to punish this woman by having her being ripped apart, eaten alive by the groaners. I don't know. I ain't like that. That felt very savage. Now, something that I thought was just very cliche, because this always happens quite a few times when you watch movies or TV shows and you got somebody going after another person. The person that they're chasing always just so happen to drop something that just tells you where they're going. I can't stand that. We could have got a different way for them to track her and Maggie and Negan to Manhattan. I mean, they tracked Negan this far, and I'm sure it wasn't because he dropped a piece of paper saying I'm gonna be at this bar and hotel. So that kind of irked me. But when Maggie was getting in her car to go chase after Negan, one of the men came up, opened her car door to kind of fight her, and she's able to fight him off, but her little map falls out of the car on the ground. That's just so, but you know what, I ain't gonna harp on it because I really did enjoy the episode so far, but that just is something that I see quite a bit that really grinds my gears. It's just so cliche. And it's like, not even cliche, that's the wrong word. It's too convenient. Like, it's way too convenient that I'm just leave a little piece of paper that tell you exactly where I'm going. But anyway, he finds a page torn out of the book. He goes to the little index, and it shows that it is a map of Manhattan. So he knows that that is where they are headed. Now, this Marshall guy is a pretty interesting character. I'm not sure at this point if he is going to be like a upright, do-right, Wyatt Earp type character, or if he gonna have a whole little villain arc. Because what he did to that lady, I thought that was brutal. But he tells the junior marshal, what I did, that ain't because I wanted to, it's because it had to be done, whatever the hell. But I really do enjoy his character, and he feels like a worthy adversary when it comes to Negan. This whole conglomerate of Negan versus the Croat, Negan versus the Marshal, I like that matchup because, baby, the Croat, yeah, definitely a worthy adversary. Now, we end up having Maggie and Negan at, the little waterway where they have to get across to the city. They see headlights, they hear a car, which is the marshals pulling up. And Maggie ends up taking a junior marshal hostage when he goes off to, do his business, relieve himself. And that is what we use to be able to get across the river, because the marshal, the way we are on the boat, you would have to shoot the junior marshal if you want to get at us. And Negan wants to throw old boy off the boat and tell him like, oh, you'll be okay, just doggy paddle. But baby, it's a bunch of walkers in the water. So I'm feeling like, Negan, you are finna kill this young man. But Maggie stops Negan. Negan is like, look, as long as he with us, he a liability. He's a marshal. But Maggie feels like he's insurance, and either way, you don't have a say. Now, we get across to Manhattan, and y'all, I love everything about this new setting. First of all, just the way it looks, the way it's shot, the way this city, y'all, the walkers, like everything looks so dreary. And it literally feels like danger, like at every turn, every step. Baby, they walking through the city. And y'all, this junior marshal, he wasn't gonna last long no way. He was terrible, and I get it, baby, you a rookie, but he was sloppy as hell. He was so terrible. He makes some little half-ass attempt to like run off, and Negan pushes him. He like falls, makes some noise, and of course the walkers hear us. Y'all, it was raining walkers. I really love this scene. Walkers are literally jumping from buildings because they heard us, and we're trying to run through with the damn walkers falling. Y'all, some truck is driving through the streets playing music. And we get a horde of walkers coming towards us. Now they duck down, behind a bunch of bags of trash. And y'all, they got these giant cockroaches crawling all over them. I'm not a very like girly, prissy type of woman, but the one thing I can't do is bugs. Oh no. I'd rather face the walkers than face bugs. It makes my skin crawl. Like, I cannot with bugs. Now, I did forget to say, when we were either driving in the car or when we were on the boat, Maggie and Negan get into this confrontation where Negan pretty much says he feels like he's paid for what he's done. And I'm just like, now I know I done missed a lot, but I don't think you paid for what you've done. Maybe unless his child was brutally murdered, but yeah, I'm not buying that. But he went into telling Maggie that after all this time, you still think I'm the bad guy. And he's pretty much telling her there are no bad guys, or maybe everyone is a bad guy. And how many husbands and fathers have you killed? Which, like I said, I haven't been up on the show in years, but to the parts that I saw, Maggie them only didn't kill innocent, unarmed people. They only killed people that was trying to kill them. They only killed to like survive. They didn't do the stuff that the Saviors and Negan did. So I ain't even really was feeling that, what he was saying. First of all, baby, you ain't paid for what you did, and don't be throwing nothing at me about who I've killed. But it does feel like there is a tension between Maggie and Negan that is going to come to a head at some point. And all I know, excuse me, all I know is they better not goddamn introduce no romantic nothing between these two characters. That's all I know. That is all I know. In no shape, way, or form. And when I said it feel like it may come to a head, it just might come to a head when we rescue Herschel. And I'm really hoping that Herschel is not going to be written as the stereotypical, insufferable, bratty-ass teenager. Because we get a little flashback of him, and that is exactly how they was portraying him. When I tell you, for some reason, these Hollywood writers don't know no other way to write teenagers. But I pray that is not what they're going to do. Because I want to like you, Herschel, okay? I loved your granddad, and I loved your dad, and I want to like you. So don't get on my nerve. Don't be Carl. Well, I don't know how he evolved now. Remember, I ain't seen it. But the Carl that I knew, him and Laura was on my last nerves. Now, we end up... Now, this I didn't understand. That horde of walkers I was telling y'all about, they get gunned down. And that mug sounded like a machine gun. Like them guns that mercenaries and military have when you be watching movies where it's like shooting a bunch of bullets. It was like, duh, 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 duh. It's the marshals. But when I see the marshals, all they got is rifles. Baby, that didn't sound like no rifle. That sounded like a bunch of bullets. That sounded like a machine gun. So all I know is that didn't sound like no rifle. Not in the slightest. Now, we end up Negan, Junior Walker, and Junior Marshall and Maggie Negan. They all go into like this department store, and we're trying to find a way out, so we separate. Maggie goes off by herself, and Negan and the Junior Marshall go off together, right? Now, we have this walker that sneaks up on the Junior Marshall and Negan. Really, the Junior Marshall, that's who the walker attacks. And I'm saying, like, can I recall a walker ever silently sneaking up on anybody? Because they always moaning and groaning and kind of making noise when they come at you. But also, when this walker goes to attack the Junior Marshall, he is on top of the Marshall. The Marshall is down on the ground on his back. The walker is on top of him. Baby, it was a rat in the Marshall. Not the Marshall. God damn it. There was a rat in the walker's mouth. And it was disgusting. It was all kind of stuff like falling out the mouth of the walker onto the Junior Marshall. And I was trying to peep if that stuff was falling in his mouth. Because I was like, can you get infected like that? I mean, we know that everybody everybody is infected, but that just felt like you about to turn yourself if that mess is falling in your mouth. But it really didn't matter, because the second Negan comes over and kills the walker and saves the junior marshal, when the marshal gets up, he gets shot in the head by the main marshal, who obviously was trying to shoot Negan. But this ain't make no sense to me. Why would you pop up and just shoot without saying nothing? The whole thing is y'all supposed to be capturing Negan so he could be sliced in half like a banana, but you just shoot? You was gonna just kill him on the spot? That didn't really make sense to me. And I would think you smarter than that. Negan and that junior marshal were literally right next to each other. That didn't feel to me like you got a clean shot, but child. Now we end up, Negan is able to get away. He runs through this door, and the marshal is like down, like on his knee, holding a gun. And Maggie goes to sneak up behind him. Baby, it was dead quiet, so I don't know how the marshal knew that Maggie was pulling up behind him, but he does turn around just in time, and they get into this little fight. Now, when he first come, when the lead marshal first came into the department store, he was kind of talking to Maggie like, I don't know who you are. I don't know why you with this man. You know, whatever your reasons, maybe it's a good one. But he was kind of giving her a chance. But he was like, if I find you now, all bets are off and I will find you. So now when they have this little fight and he's winning because Maggie tried to use the little knife in her shoe, but he takes his leg to hold her leg down. He has his rifle kind of choking her. He's pretty much winning the fight. So she goes into telling him, I need him to, you know, save my son. But Marshall got murder in his eyes. Like, he don't even care. So she is wearing a necklace with a wedding ring that I'm going to presume is Glenn's wedding ring. And she ends up being able to take that off of her neck and slice him in the face with it. And that is her chance to get up. She gets his weapon and she knocks him out. And I was confused, baby. She drops the gun and just runs off with Negan. And I'm like, we need that gun. It's walkers in this whole, like, hundreds of, I don't know, I just feel like, baby, we need a gun. And I get it, we got these new Babylon laws, so maybe that's one of the laws, you can't have a gun, but we need that gun. That's how I felt. Now, when we get into this little room, we end up, okay, we lock ourselves in this little room. The walkers were able to break through the glass door. They killed the other marshal, which I thought it was stupid for that marshal to be standing so close to the door. Like, they literally break the door and just fall on the marshal. But the marshal was supposed to stay there because the lead marshal was like, nobody gets out. But baby, ain't nobody getting out if it's a whole bunch of walkers on the other side of the glass doors. But anyway, he dead, he out. Nobody left but the lead marshal. We lock ourselves in this little room. The walkers are trying to get through the door. The marshal was on the ground and he's hiding but can't get to his weapon because there's a walker. Now, with Negan and Maggie in this room, Negan lights a match, and as we're like looking through the room, we come across this old lady who blows the light out. I loved how they did that. It's a lot of stuff in this where I really love how it's shot. When we first are on the boat pulling up to the city, it's like the camera, like, it's like our POV, like we're going through this fog and then the city appears. I love how they did that. It's a lot of little stuff like that where I'm like, okay, we got some good ideas behind this show. Like, this is, okay, I got high hope. I got high hope. Now, there are some cool little elements to this. And as we were walking through Manhattan when Maggie them first get here with the junior marshal, y'all, there was something written on one of the buildings that said Don Lincoln Center, come kill with us. Like, I don't know what the hell that was. I'm sitting here like, hold on, was that the Croat people? That, like, what was this whole come kill with us? I thought that was so crazy. I love the whole feel that they are going for with this show. I like how gritty it feels, how dark it feels. And I really love this dynamic that they have with Negan and Maggie. And I can't even believe I'm saying that, child. There is like a animosity, a tension, a hatred that is coming from Maggie, where it feels like it's just bubbling at the surface and haven't yet like overflowed. But she actually does really well with this performance. It's kind of like a contained rage, which she performs brilliantly. But I will say, I don't buy the part of her performance where she's supposed to be like hardened or badass. Like I don't know, I'm just not buying it. It feels more like she's like trying to appear tough and less like she actually just is tough. And even with everything I know Maggie has gone through, all the stuff I'm pretty sure she's gone through that I don't know about, living in this type of world as long as she has, I don't buy it. I don't feel that she's hardened and tough, and I don't know. I don't know what it is about the performance when it comes to that aspect, but I just don't buy it. But maybe it's just me. Negan's performance is, my God, amazing, brilliant. I can't stand giving this man no type of credit or because I will never forgive Negan. But he has a pretty brilliant performance. He feels like a madman. He feels untrustworthy. He feels sneaky. But at the same time, there's a endearing, charming, charismatic nature to him. And I feel like this is a hard performance to pull off, but he pulls it off very well, because it's like a character that you very well should hate, but you enjoy seeing him. Yo, no, I love you, Glenn. I won't betray you. But it is a really good character. Negan's performance feels like theatrical, but not over the top in a bad way. He feels cold, but not completely heartless. Like, I don't know how he pulls that off, but he does. So their little history and attitude with each other, it does make for an interesting dynamic. And with the mix of Negan, it does add this feeling of the situation being unpredictable. Like, it kind of feels like you don't know what Negan is going to do. You don't know if he's going to turn on her. Like, you just don't know what the hell he going to do. And it makes it very interesting. I also feel like I love the direction it feels like they're going with this Walking Dead, because there's a sense of urgency. It feels like we have real stakes. It feels like very chaotic. I don't know, like each moment feels very pressing, and like they are actual in danger. It actually feels like you don't know what is about to happen. So I'm really excited for this new series, and I'm just hoping we get some of those iconic moments that liken to what I used to love when I first started watching the early seasons of The Walking Dead. I mean, Carol's daughter coming out of that freaking barn still blows my mind. When Glenn was tied up in that room with that goddamn walker having to fight for his life. Like, it's just so many moments that I'm like, okay, we need some moments like that. I really hope we get some. I hope we get some of those moments. Now, we saw in episode 1 that Maggie and Negan come into this room. They have this match trying to look around with the light of the fire, and we see this old lady who blows the light out. Now, at the top of this episode, we see Negan and Maggie says that the old lady took her bag, which I don't know if I missed something, but I just was kind of like, how did this old lady take a bag that was like on your shoulder? But the old lady takes her bag, runs off, and they go chasing the old lady, which I felt like a trap. Like, it felt like a setup. Like, I'm not gonna be running around someplace that I am unfamiliar with trying to chase you. But as they're trying to chase after this lady, they're climbing up like an elevator shaft, and then they see the old lady go out of a window, which we are now learning that this is pretty much how we get around this city, because of course we have hordes and hordes of walkers on the ground. So they pretty much use this like wire that goes from building to building, and we go across on that, and the old lady tosses the little thing over to them because she wants Negan and Maggie to follow her. So we go out through the window, and when it's Maggie's turn, she's a little scared. She gets a little shook. Walkers are coming up behind her, and we hear that truck again playing music, which kind of distracts her. So she pretty much kind of just falls instead of being able to push herself off, which doesn't give her enough momentum, and she pretty much kind of stops right before the edge. Refusing help from Negan, she is able to, pull herself up, and we end up following the old lady, and she speaks a different language, but she's obviously friendly. She gives Maggie her bag back, and she shares some pigeon. She shares some pigeon with Negan, who's eating on that, which I was disgusted. But the old lady takes her to this group who are freaking out the second they see that she has strangers with her, and they end up asking them, what are they doing here? And Maggie spins a tale. She spins some lie about being on a boat and just being here to look for supplies, which they immediately feel like, okay, that's BS, you're lying. So they end up locking Negan and Maggie up in this bathroom. Now, while they was having this conversation in the bathroom, I was feeling like people was listening in, but no, that's not what was happening. But this is where Negan pretty much gives Maggie the Croats little origin story and their history together. And this is when we find out that the Croat and Negan did not end on the best of terms. They had a disagreement about this young girl that they found on the side of the road that Negan wanted to just let go. The Croat ended up like brutally torturing and murdering her. So Negan goes to kill him and misses. So Maggie's whole plan to use Negan because he has a history with the Croat, that's not looking like the best of plans because it's bad blood between the two. Now, as we are in this bathroom, we start to hear a commotion happening outside, and we see that this group is kind of like being attacked, and one of the guys, it was a guy and a girl that pretty much the old lady brought them to and locked them in here, and the guy feels like Maggie and Negan drew the bad guys to them. What was that group called? I have it in my notes. This group was called Barazi. I think that's how they were pronouncing it. He's pretty much like, they brought the Barazi on us, and Negan is trying to tell him like, calm down, just trust us, we don't have nothing to do with them, we could help you. And the guy's just freaking out, don't trust them. And that's when Negan grabs the guy and holds the little sharpened pigeon bone to his neck, like, you are gonna trust me because I've been sharpening this bone all morning and I want to stab out your jugular, but I ain't gonna do that. See, because we friends, I'm here to help you. Now, they end up giving Negan and Maggie their knife back and their bag, and we all are trying to like get out of here, get away from the Barazi. And y'all, these damn nail guns that I was like, what the hell is y'all like? Them nail guns is way more deadly than I thought. It literally shoots this thing out that rips a freaking hole through you. When we're trying to get away, we end up having to fight a few of the Barazi, and the girl shoots her with one of them nail gun thingies, and it's on like a retractable type thing where it shoots out, rips a freaking hole in you, and it sucks back into the gun. And these Barazi, they have these like motorcycle helmets that have like blades and all kind of things sticking out to like fight and hurt with. Yeah, these Barazis are something serious. Now, when we end up like getting away, one Barazi is in here and gets the old lady, holding her, and he ends up killing the old lady. So Negan takes the Barazi. You know, everybody else go ahead, go. Negan about to take care of this. Y'all, Negan takes this Barazi guy and goes into the other area where everybody was when the Barazi came in. He's up, Negan is upstairs. It is a group of Barazi downstairs. Negan is freaking slamming the boy head through like 3 windows. Freaking breaking the windows with the boy head. Like, knock, knock. I said, knock, knock. And he goes over to like the little balcony and he gives the craziest speech like, knock, knock, who's there? Butter, prepare for rain. He freaking slits the guy's throat and blood sprays all over the Barazi down on the lower level. He rips the guy's guts out and just sprays all the people with it and tosses his body. And when he turns around, he sees that Maggie is standing behind him watching everything he's doing. I don't see, first of all, I said I don't see how you team up with nobody that killed the love of your life, but I don't see how you team up with a man. This is a mad man. Like, this was so, it was literal insanity. And I would love to see the Croat's face reaction, what he says when his team come back and tell them we met this guy and he did XYZ. Like, I would love to be there for that conversation. Now, when we are able to kind of, you know, get our bearings and we're all together, that's when the group pretty much, you know, thanks Negan and Maggie for helping and tells them there's no way though we can return the favor. We don't have any supplies. We can't, you know, we really can't help you to, you know, get to your boat, but your boat has probably sunk because that's what the Croat does. You get on the island, but you can never make it off. And Maggie ends up telling them the story of why they are actually here, and that they are actually here because the Croat kidnapped her son. So she's here to kill him and take her son. And old girl is like, oh, we can help you with that, you know, if we want to die. Because this Croat guy pretty much runs this whole island of Manhattan. That is who these Barazi people work for, answer to. So this little group is like, okay, yeah, we know about him. We could help, but pretty much it's basically like a suicide mission, right? Now, we also have the marshal, and remember he couldn't get to his gun because the walker was in the way, and he kept looking at this piece of paper the whole previous episode, and he ends up going to this address, which I was like, what are the odds that out of the entire United States, you mean to tell me like his pre-apocalypse home is here in Manhattan? Y'all, this was his home, wasn't it? He goes into this home, he breaks in, and he puts like a dresser in front of the door, which still leaves the gaping hole, but you know, walkers can't just, you know, walk in. They have to get through the barricade. And he finds someone there who is dead. Obviously somebody he knows and cares for. He covers the person up. He puts this rosary down over the body. And he goes to this gun case, but the gun is gone. The bullets are gone. And he ends up seeing the walkers trying to get in through the door, and he goes out this window. And y'all, when he had to open that stuck window, I just imagine how horrible it had to smell in there. I mean, it's an old, decrepit apartment with a dead body just going through the cycles of decaying in there. But he ends up getting out of the window, and of course when he's walking through the streets down below, he ends up stepping into one of the Croat's traps. And I just was sitting here like, you mean to tell me a marshal don't have a knife? You couldn't cut your way out of this? I thought that was really crazy. So the marshal ends up, hanging up there in this trap for who knows how long. There's a group of walkers down below kind of reaching up for him. And that's when the Croat and his people pull up with their little crazy motorcycle helmets on. And they end up getting the marshal down. And when I tell you, so the marshal pulls out a little handgun, which the Croat kicks away, and he takes off his helmet. He's like, don't worry, you're safe now. And I just get the feeling that the marshal can't be more unsafe. Like the whole you're safe. No, sir. I don't think he is. Now, I thought it was crazy when Negan was in that bathroom with Maggie telling the story about the Croat, and she pretty much tells him it takes a monster to make a monster. And Negan, for me, had the nerve to be like, he was only a monster when he had to be. He was only a monster to protect his people. First of all, killing Glenn unarmed was not protecting your people. But when he kills that Barazi guy, that didn't come off to me as a man doing something because he had to. That looked to me like enjoyment. Like, that looked to me like you are getting some type of satisfaction out of the situation. Now, let me see. What do we have in my notes that I have not mentioned? We know, Negan gave his grandiose speech with the Barazi. And, I said in my episode 1, but it actually happens in this episode that when we took Jenny to the new hilltop, she actually in this episode runs away, presumably to go and find Negan, because we know that she ran off to go find her dad that ended up dead. So now that she's with Negan, we can pretty much assume that she has run off now to go find Negan. Now, I don't know if she knows they went to Manhattan. I cannot recall that conversation. But I mean, she was there with them for the whole duration of the trip to get her to New Hilltop. So I just feel like obviously we can presume that she knows that is where they went. Now, I feel like we got some really good pacing for these first 2 episodes. We had it wasn't a lot of downtime, and even when it was downtime, it was still very interesting. Now, the Croat having the marshal, I'm very interested in where that is going to go, because is he going to try and recruit the marshal to like be one of his little Barazi henchmen? Or is it going to be, so we see the Croat, when we saw the Croat with Maggie's son, right? Having a conversation with the son and seemingly about to torture the poor kid. One of his people come in to say he got away. Now, when the Croat and his henchmen get up to the rooftop, we see a guy who pretty much looks like he's been beaten and tortured. And the Croat wanted him to give him information on his people. Now, I don't know if his people is the group that Maggie and Negan are with, or if it's another group. Because remember, the Croat went and raided Maggie's little town and took her son as a hostage. So it's no telling what other little town they could have raided and taken this guy as a hostage. So I'm not sure which group he's with. But the guy is trying to run, and I thought this wasn't smart. Remember, we used the little rope things to get across from building to building. He jumps on there to slide across, but I'm not jumping on a rope that's literally right next to the people I'm running from, because I feel like common sense should tell you that all they gotta do is cut the rope, which the Croat does, and the young man falls to his untimely end. But so far, I like all the performances. They're all top tier across the board. I like all the characters, and I actually feel like they threw in a lot of very interesting characters. First of all, we have the unlikely pairing and dynamic of Negan and Maggie. We have the Croat, who is Yeah, I don't know. He might be about to be my favorite villain in, the Walking Dead universe. But I don't know. I can't say that yet because we ain't had but 2 episodes. And I also really like the Marshall's character, and I'm very interested in where that character is going to go and the role that he's going to end up playing, whether when it comes to the Croat people or when it comes to Maggie and Negan and them on that side. Now, those are the events of the first 2 episodes so far. And I'll be here every week to recap every new episode. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, for supporting the content. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.